All right, we will call the Public Safety, Customer Service, and Operations meeting to order. And Mr. Kagan, it says that Chief Bumpers is going to do the safety message, but I know that you're just sitting there ready to go, so we'll call him
ready. Thank you. Well, June is National Safety Month, and the agency partners with the National Safety Council to send weekly theme messages each week for the month. And the theme of this year is Safe for Life, which encourages employees and everybody to make safety a lifestyle. And in addition, we also conduct a safety survey to get input from all employees on their perception of the safety culture of the agency. So we want to encourage everybody to conduct a safety survey and truly make safety a lifestyle. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Dr. Frieden is going to be joining us later, and for that reason, I'm going to postpone the action items to the end of the agenda. And we're going to begin with the committee approval items and followed by the briefings and get to action items last. Mr. Keim, we'll go ahead and call on you for the procurement report.
Okay, thank you. Let me just give me my notes real quick. There's not that many on here. Okay, we have for public safety, we have 4 items. 3 of them are invitation for bid. The ones that are invitation for bid are a requirements contract for some rail track lubricant, a IFB for some Volcom rail tire kits, and an IFB for some bus fluids. And those are straight bids, and if I can get your concurrence to move forward with those 3 IFBs. Okay, thank you. There's another one here we want to talk about, which is going to be natural gas, and I think there's a presentation about that.
Let's wait. Let's bring that up with the action items, Rocky, till Dr. Frieden can. Okay. And he said he might not be able to join us, but we'll delay on all the action items until we know for sure.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Send those on to the full agenda. Okay. Let's go to the briefings. Chief Kelly, the monthly reports.
Thank you, Mr. Robinson. Would first introduce Captain Felix Vara. If you've not met him, he's sitting in for Chief Bumpers today. And Mr. Kagan, you want to talk safety?
Sure. Will you bring up the presentation regarding the monthly report? Will you please bring up the monthly report? I know, right? There we go. Thank you.
Technology is a wonderful thing.
I was almost there. All right, this first slide is an overview of our bus accident report for the month of May. Our benchmark was 53, and we ended the month with 50 more reportable accidents, a total of 38 non-preventable and 12 preventable accidents, which is kind of a nice rebound from the previous month on the non-preventable accidents.
How did we classify that major accident as preventable or non-preventable?
The investigation is still going on. We are reviewing the video, and we will return to the board with our decision. But we are still looking at all factors of the accident.
All right.
We're going to the rail accidents. May wasn't a good month. Total 16 accidents. All of them were non-preventable. The majority of the accidents did occur on the original red line with 9. We had 3 pedestrian accidents, 1 cyclist incident. And out of those, a majority of them were still in the central business district.
Is there any kind of common location for those accidents?
The medical center, we see around the same Dryden, anywhere from Cambridge to Pressler. And in the central business district, we see the common theme around high concentration of pedestrians and motor vehicles. And that's mainly the medical center and the CBD.
Mr. Robinson, I think it's important of those numbers, too, that safety's provided. 7 were illegal left turns, 4 ran red lights, and 1 car that just sideswiped a train, not in its own lane. So we had, none of these collisions were preventable on our part, and we'll continue to try to address those high incident locations.
How are we doing? I know for a long time we were having a problem with homeless people out in the vicinity of the stadium. Has that cleared up any?
We haven't seen the problem, and I know the police are still targeting that location, and I think we have somewhat worked to relocate the panhandling that takes place there, but that's an ongoing challenge.
Well, we had 2, I think, fatality accidents right in that area.
That's correct.
Associated with that. Yeah, well, I hope we can keep that pressure on.
Yes, sir.
Good afternoon, everyone. As you can see, our numbers are pretty good for the Part 1 crimes. I think the biggest thing that we needed to discuss this afternoon is the spike in auto thefts that we had in South. We had 8 vehicles stolen. The good news is that with the cooperation of the county and city auto theft, we were able to apprehend the individual. So we caught this one guy with not only the vehicle, in a stolen vehicle, but with tools as well. So they took that. This was his fifth offense for auto theft.
Was he involved in multiple thefts?
Yes, sir.
Same individual?
As a matter of fact, we probably cleared all 8 with him. It's still under investigation, but we're still working with that. Additionally, there was some juveniles, 2 juveniles that were involved in burglary of motor vehicles. Again, we caught one of them, and it's looking like since we caught those individuals, it's all stopped. So we think we have our guys.
Were they taking him for a chop shop, or what was?
Yes, sir. That's what we believe. That's pretty much the tendency.
And Mr. Robinson, I want to highlight, too, that one of the benefits of police is we have an officer assigned to the auto theft task force in the region, so we do get that cooperation from all the other agencies when we see these problems to try to target them.
Good.
Again, Part 2 crimes, again, like I said, they're usually driven on the LRB platforms by our officers. I mean, literally half of them were warrant arrests. So we arrest somebody for criminal trespass and ends up they having 3 or 4 failure to appear at the City of Houston warrants. So that kind of multiplies and bumps it up. So that's why we have that pretty consistent. Questions on that?
No questions.
Okay. And then we're still trying to issue our code of conduct. We're still trying to get that off the ground.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, before we get off to them, I want to compliment Chief Bumpers and her entire team. They've been working with council members and community leaders in the north side area where, unfortunately, the young man lost his life. They've been very active in working with the community group, working with HPD, working with Precinct 6.
Yes, sir.
Working with HISD police. There's been a lot of cooperative efforts out there to make sure we're increasing visibility, so I want to compliment them for that.
Good, because I know that's been a real concern for that community, just the number of vagrants that were in that area, making people feel unsafe on the system.
Correct. Our calls have increased dramatically in that area, and we've been responding.
Good.
Felix, did you click onto the HOV slide, or you had citations? You're going to talk citations?
We can. I don't think there's anything that really jumps out. Again, we're pretty consistent. Our guys are out there pretty regularly.
Yeah, we continue to have the dedication on enforcement out there and the visibility. And then the next slide is speeds, and you'll see our speeds are doing well. As typical in summer, there's a little less travel and our speeds pick up. It's usually at the beginning of school that we have to pay a lot of attention to that and see where our speeds are consistent with our requirements.
Yeah, I've noticed that the speeds do appear to be up. Of course, as you know, I catch my daily violator, which I report to you. So.
We appreciate all the help.
I can't get the cop out of I guess I can't get the cop out of my system. I don't know.
I was going to just take credit for the increased speeds, but I knew that you were our enforcement out there and you would know better. So. And the balance of the report is in your package, and as typical, we'll just answer any questions you have, but I think we've had a pretty good performance month.
Okay, thank you. All right, who's going to do the call center? Dancel? Go ahead.
Our average wait time is below the 2-minute requirement. Our call volume, again, as you can see, it has decreased and it continues decreasing today. Complaints have gone down, however, commendations have gone up. So that just means comments and commendations for operations and really for the entire agency, all the different departments. Retailer and ride sponsor accounts doing well, on track to meet their annual goal of 20 new accounts. Fan and South Daily and monthly Parkers doing extremely well. Special and premium events, these are anomalies, basically additional events that we put on, that we staff Fan and South to make sure that we're providing the support that our customers need, as well as for the monthly auction. Okay.
Okay, thank you. All right, Andy, you're doing the operations.
Sure thing. First item would be our complaint numbers. As you can see, our complaints are down. We're at about 15 per 100,000 boardings, well below our benchmark. Moving on to on-time performance. On-time performance on the local side met gold, while on the park and ride side we missed gold. We did, over the course of the May month, have a lot of issues with weather, and that does have a negative impact on traffic and our ability to meet on-time performance. Mean distance between failure, as you can see, we exceed our goal. It does change, if you notice in the graph. We do bring our goal down to a realistic number for the summertime, because summer does have a little bit more negative impact on the reliability of the fleet, and so we've seasonalized it. Even though we still well exceeded our mean distance between failure mark. Band pool operations are where they're at, considering the economy and everything else. We're doing well. We're not as well as we'd like to do.
Andy, what do you think is the impact of the fleet age of the buses on the failure rate?
I think that while we've normalized our fleet age, and as we move through our fleet program, you do get a positive impact on mean distance between failure. If you actually look at the numbers from about 7 or 8 years ago, where we had a weird mix and an odd mix of fleet and some very older equipment, our numbers were not they're not even close to where they're at today. I mean, if you look at a 10-year review of our mean distance between failure, you can see that our maintenance program and our maintenance team has done an excellent job in improving our reliability of our fleet. As you keep older buses, of course, those older buses will, no matter how much you look at them, will slightly fail at a higher rate than others. And again, that stresses the importance of a routine and a consistent replacement program. One of the issues with replacing large hunks of your fleet at one time is that large hunk of fleet gets old at the same time as well, and that will have a larger negative impact over the overall fleet performance. So if you have 100 new buses and 100 older buses, that tends to allow you to have a fleet that you can manage and focus your attention on what you need to focus your attention on, and keep the reliability where it should be at.
Okay.
Vanpool, I think next was rail on-time performance. I think we've missed the gold on our red line again. As we get to warmer weather, we're fight it every day and do the best we can to meet the goal. We are much more improved than where we've been. Changes we've made, thanks to the board, to modify some of the equipment that we've modified, as far as being able to get the gates faster and get them lifted. And the team working very hard to address issues with exit counters as fast as we can. And when I mean team, I mean operations and MPD, because both of us are a full-scale effort to get that addressed. We've kind of normalized where we're at with on-time performance on the rail side. And then the MDBSI, that's the mean distance between service interruption. It's a rail measure for reliability, and we've done very well with that. I'm sorry, rail MDBSI. And Metrolift, on-time performance, at goal or near goal for on-time performance. Passenger trips are, no, I'm sorry, bear with me on the passenger trips. They're up slightly. We're not seeing the growth on passenger trips we had initially planned for, and so we'll keep tracking that. And if we move forward, mean distance between failure, they also track mean distance between failure on the MDB on the Metrolift side, and we've exceeded gold. And our no-show is benchmark is 3%, and you can see that our no-show rate's been very good. That program's worked out very well. The customers are very accepting to it, and it actually has benefited us on the on-time performance side greatly.
In those totals, do they reflect both the Metrolift vehicles and the taxis combined together?
Yeah, the Metrolift numbers are both contracts combined together, yes. And that's it. I think that was
thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, the monthly board speaker follow-up. Dan Sell.
Yes, thank you. On May 25th, at the board meeting, we had 19 constituents who signed up to speak before the board. 11 speakers attended the meeting, and the following is a summary of the discussions which our board and staff have already addressed. 2 members requested service outside of our service area, as well as layover options for route number 14. 2 focused on multiple issues: platform cleanliness, loitering at bus stops. A local owner discussed Harrisburg access lanes, which staff has agreed to work on improvements. Another had various route recommendations. One was related to Route 344, Acres Home, which the board approved an extension to the pilot program, allowing more time for staff to coordinate with the community. And in addition, the board also approved a new bus route to serve Manchester and a portion of Lawndale, Route 38, Manchester-Lawndale, scheduled to begin service July 3rd. Another group discussed Super Bowl transit services, conversion of our Heights Transit Center to a neighborhood park, and fuel cost savings, all opportunities which are under discussion today. Lastly, our speaker spoke about an operator behavior as it relates to ADA compliance, and staff has addressed and continues to monitor the route for compliance. Thank you.
Thank you. Andy, I noticed something last night that I'd never seen on 1960. I live in a subdivision on 1960, and normally the buses, they're pretty predictable in their time, but last night there were 2 of them, and they were both in service, and they were one behind the other, which struck me as kind of strange.
And they were both the same route, I assume?
Both the same route.
And that's called bus bunching.
Because there's only one route that runs on
Yeah,
1960.
that's called bus bunching, and it's something we spend a lot of effort and time to try to prevent. It does happen once in a blue moon. Some other event, which I'll do some research to find out, some other event might have caused that. As we see that, we actually take some mitigating measures to stop that, meaning the second bus actually is told to hold for a period of time. One of the 2 is way off schedule, and it's allowed the both of them to get close. The guy behind is happy, and the guy in front is not happy, and so we try our best to mitigate that. The person in front, or the operator in front, ended up picking up most of the passenger load, while the person in back. And that's why it's a little difficult to fix, because the second bus is not making stops or having to make as many stops. And so it's challenged to run slower, while the first bus in front of it's getting later and later as it picks up more and more people. And so we kind of spread the pain between the 2 vehicles. We slow up both the front and the back, or we let the front go ahead and maybe skip 1 or 2 stops and have the back go behind it. So there's a number of different things we can do. When you see that, if you can give me a text, and if it wasn't already handled by our controller, I would make them note it, and they would take a look and talk to those operators.
I'd never seen that on that route before. How do we address that with our smartphone application for people that are waiting for a bus? What does it do?
No, it's probably going to be it's actually going to show the first bus late and the second bus on time. And so to the person on a corner, they're going to see the bus, the late bus, and then they're going to see the second bus, which is probably on time, right behind it. So to the person using the app, they're going to see a late bus. And so, I mean, it's still taking the time from both buses and pushing it out to the app. Okay.
All right, Danicel, the call center service optimization.
I just wanted to briefly recognize my staff who's here today. We have Antoinette Davis, the call center manager. We have Wave. We have Karen Reddix, call center supervisor. We have Paula Dudley, quality analyst, and Stephen Rains, the system analyst. Of course, DeAndrea Wilson, our call center director. This is a core team that really helps us provide service to our customers daily. So as we begin, Ms. DeAndrea Wilson will join me at the podium, and what I'm going to do is give you a brief history, and then she'll give you the rest of the presentation.
Welcome, Ms. Wilson.
Thank you.
And let me comment, with an average wait time of around 2 minutes, y'all are doing a great job.
Thank you so much.
There's not many call centers in private business or government that, that can achieve that kind of result consistently.
We thank you for that.
It takes a team effort. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. So in 2010, the call center hours were extended to align our customer services with the 7 operating principles in an effort to improve the transit experience. In 2013, an organizational change was implemented and the operating infrastructure was evaluated. In 2014, we converted 14 part-time positions to full-time, improving the overall morale while helping reduce turnover rate, which was at an estimated 63%, improving and promoting inclusion to the Metro family, which in return produced employee loyalty, higher productivity and staffing continuity, retention of institutional knowledge, improved wait time, and retention of our training investment. Since that time, we have evaluated data which reveals the progressive impact of the new bus network implementation, technology innovation, call center improvements, and social media, who helps to increase Metro's footprint and reach every day. The call center and social media team, our gateway to millennials, have become prime channels for customer care and brand reputation. The press office, marketing, and IT have all partnered with us to enhance the quality and expand the services provided, making it a better experience for our customers. Modern technology and the optimization of our call center will allow us to strategically improve staffing utilization while reallocating service resources to meet changes in customer demand today. We're also happy to announce that within 3 days, the call center agents via promotional scripts have offered and signed up nearly 600 patrons to Metro's Gov Delivery subscription, managed by our partners in the press office. Another way of listening to the voice of our customers, providing and putting Metro's rider tools in the patrons' hands. In this presentation, you will see how these improvements have contributed to the overall decrease in call volume year after year. Our assessments will reveal a steady decrease in overall call volume, how we compare with our transit partners today, and how the enhancements to our network frequency and collaborative opportunities have been the catalyst for improving customer service. Andrea?
Thank you, Danicel, and thank you, Board. Again, I am DeAndrea Wilson, the Director of the Customer Care Call Center. Today, I will give you a brief overview of the Customer Care Center. The Customer Call Center, also known as CCC, is responsible for providing information in multiple languages to our patrons regarding Metro's products and services. We give information for riding the bus, itinerary solutions, cue cards, fare media, and lost and found articles. Our Customer Resolutions Team, also known as CRT, is responsible for documenting comments, commendations, complaints regarding products and services for Metro as it relates to bus, rail, and Metro Lift. We do that via phone and via internet. This slide represents our call volume and our calls per hour. We've compared calls per hour for FY15 to FY16, Q1 and Q2. Our call volume changed significantly in 2013, with a major change in FY15, and has contributed this trend through today. Some of the agency attributes that we attribute to this decrease in call volume is, of course, the implementation of our new bus network with better service and frequency service to our customers. We also contribute the enhancements we've made in the call center, such as we have initiated call quality, we have initiated a quality analyst and a quality assurance program, which has improved our customer service from 80% to 90%. We also offer our customers to email and mail rider schedules, bus and rail schedules. We also offer our customers to send them itinerary solutions from our trip planners system. And this has been well received by our customers. We've also implemented incentive programs such as Executive Club and Perfect Attendance. We've increased our schedule adherence. And these are just some of the things that enhancements we've made in the call center that we contribute to the decrease in call volume. Our CRT weekday and weekend call volume has indicated an extreme decrease in calls per hour. Our weekly calls per hour peak on a weekday at 28 calls. It peaks on a weekend at 8 calls. With the implementation of our new public comment system, the customer service specialist will have the ability to increase their focus on internet and online comments. Management will also have the opportunity to reallocate staff and resources on weekends to better manage our comments that are coming in 24/7 on this new public comment system. As a part of our research and data collection, we compared our operating hours with our transit partners. And as seen in this matrix, the findings were of 11 of the agencies, the majority closed between 8 and 9 p.m. on weekdays and closing between 7 and later on weekends, with their comments and complaint system closed on weekends. Now, the new hours will be for the CCC will be Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. to 8 p.m., Saturday and Sunday, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Our CRT will be Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. to 8 p.m., closed on Saturday and Sunday. Now, with the implementation of the new hours, the CCC will provide more extended hours during increased call volume to support our special events, such as Super Bowl. We'll adjust the hours to allow us to align our resources at times of the day when we're getting the highest number of calls. Customers are also able, as Danica mentioned, to subscribe to our Gov Delivery and receive real-time service alerts. Okay? And for CRT, with implementation of the new call center hours, this will allow us to better utilize our staff to manage our online and internet comments. It also helps the management team to better utilize the resources on weekend and weekdays during those peak periods where we're getting the calls. Our communication plan is we will partner with marketing to get collateral on our buses, rail platforms, and the ride stores, and in the hands of our customers so that we're able to communicate the message of the call center hours changing, as well as to promote our new public comment system. We'll update the IVR. As Danica mentioned, we will have promotional scripts to our agents where they can educate our customers and inform them of these new changes. With the upgrades to the IVR, there are more options for us to record messages and bulletins, again, educating our customers and providing them the information for travel planning. And then finally, we would launch our new public comment system in August and the new call center hours. Okay, what did I do?
Any questions? You know, on the one hand, I hate to see us reduce the hours. I think the other technology changes we've implemented certainly make it possible to do that with a minimal reduction in service to our customers.
Mr. Robinson, I think that is the point, and that we see people communicating with us differently in different generation. We've shifted headcounts to the press office for our social media staff. We're getting they get a lot of public comments, and this will allow us to use the staff we had to better deal with the majority of our customers calling. I think it's a win for our customers.
I think it is too, because, so many of our customers, well, in fact, if you're on the train or the bus, everybody's got their smartphone in their hand.
We appreciate the support.
Question here, what kind of annual savings are we looking at in terms of the change in the call center hours?
Mr. Spieler, we really haven't looked at it in that regard, though we anticipated that question. We took 3 headcounts that were vacant in the call center, and they were shifted over to the press office to create the social media staff that communicates in a different mechanism. So really, we're trying to take advantage of the new ways of communicating with customers with the same amount of staff. We're trying to right size.
So I realize I came in late, so I may have missed some of this at the beginning of the discussion. Sort of what other options are there for a customer that is, in these with the new hours, say it's 10 p.m. or whatever, it's past the new hours, and something, the last bus of the day passes them by, or they're unaware of a detour, they're stranded at a stop, they don't know what's going on. What options are there for them to figure out what's going on?
Well, again, we've started the beginning of June a new initiative that we are enrolling our customers in our Gov Delivery, which will allow them to get real-time service alerts on our interruptions and delays. After 8 o'clock p.m., any service the majority of our calls that we receive are trip planning and next bus. So they're able to obtain the same information via our router tools and technology to know what time the next bus is coming via the next bus texting, IVR, or our website.
But what I'm concerned about is those cases where something is truly just abnormal and none of the trip planning I'm not concerned about. We have lots of ways of doing that. A properly posted detour I'm not concerned about. Sometimes things are just weird. Sometimes something just goes wrong, and sometimes as a rider, the call center is sort of your only recourse for that.
And we've talked about that, and again we asked the staff to analyze what are these calls that we're getting these late hours, and they are trip planning. But you're right. There's sometimes that there's something unavoidable, or it's a service disruption that is maybe of our own causing or whatever. When that happens, we have service supervision that's in the field dealing with that, and police. And both our police and service supervision currently give a lot of rides to customers and courtesy transports, and we're going to be in the field with a human touch that perhaps is even better than the phone call. But somebody does call, they still get the IVR message, even if it's not answered. There's a lot of options for them to get help.
That is correct.
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't have a problem with restricting the call center hours if overall we have enough other things that take care of our customers. And, it's things like what I talked about at yesterday's meeting. The better we post detours, the less of an issue this kind of thing is. The better our passenger information is in general, the more reliable our service is, the more responsible we are to disruptions, the less the call center matters. And in a perfect world, you get to a point where everything else essentially makes the call center superfluous. I don't think we'll ever get to that point, but I have definitely had those moments where I'm on the system and something is going on and I can't figure out why it is, and I can't figure out why my bus isn't here, and having the ability to call a number and talk to a human being is good at those times. So if we're restricting hours, we need to make sure we eliminate as many of those instances as possible.
I think we agree, and I think that our thoughts in this regard are much like yours. At some point, there will be enough information in different sources that human being will not be necessary. But we're a long ways from that, but this is to begin to get there and always have that option.
Christoph, one thing we had noted in the presentation before you got here, because of the implementation of our various technology solutions, since those have come online, the numbers of calls to the call center have reduced significantly, and the number of late night calls in some cases are as few as 3 an hour.
No, what I'm worried about is something that is rare but could have a huge customer effect. I mean, another instance is, say you are waiting at the bus stop and the last bus of the day literally passes you by, doesn't see you, doesn't stop for you. There's no other service anywhere around. You need to get home. That kind of thing it may happen very rarely, but if you are that person, the fact that it happens rarely is not exactly a comfort.
And we have that occasionally happen today with the current hours we have. Those customers call the next day, and we try to resolve their issue in the best way that we can. If they had to take some other means home, we often reimburse them for a taxi or whatever means. And we'll continue to be open to our customers and assist them in any way we can.
And I'm going to ask this, Tim, and I asked you and Dennis to look at this also, is we do have people on duty 24 hours a day in police dispatch and in bus control. There may be some opportunities leveraging the resources we got to help mitigate that. So I'll just challenge y'all to look at that as well.
We've considered that, and many of our late night customers are aware of the police phone number, and we get a lot of calls to police dispatch that are shifted over to bus control to help people. The customers that are out that time of night and making those last trips, they're very creative to make sure they're not stranded. And the other, it's a little premature, but we'll go ahead and tell you that we are talking about, we're going to monitor this and see, do we get the kind of complaints, how frequently if somebody's out after we're closed and we weren't there to help them. If over time there is a need, we are looking at the option of how do we have a person in the call center on call, not on site, but through technology can be linked off site to be that last resort type of assistance.
Right.
So we have talked to that, and we're going to monitor the need for that in the future.
Yeah, I think that could be a worthwhile option.
I want you to know we've heard very clearly the need to improve our passenger information services, whether it's detours or not. I think you'll see us moving in that direction as well.
And again, I think, that Metro is doing a good job in that regard. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, our final briefing item is the revision to the drug and alcohol policy. Mr. Kagan.
Yes, I'd like to invite Kimberly Wells to the podium. Kim is our Director of Drug and Alcohol for the agency and ensuring compliance with our drug and alcohol and our DLT physical program. And she really do an excellent job ensuring that the agency is in compliance with both FTA and state regulations. So, Kim?
Good afternoon, everyone. How are you doing? Okay, so I want to make sure that we understand we're dealing with a different customer here. Our customer is our employees this time. We talk about our patrons who we service on the outside, but in my position, what we normally handle most of the time are our employees in-house. We try to make sure we treat them with the same type of respect and honor as we treat our patrons who pay fares on our buses. So to maintain proper FTA, drug and alcohol program compliance, the Safety Department has made updates to the drug and alcohol program policy that reflect current trends with the drug and alcohol program under the FTA guidance. The last drug and alcohol policy was approved by the board in May of 2012. Changes to the drug and alcohol policy reflect leadership changes in the organization in the last 3 years, updated graphics, so that we can clearly explain to our employees exactly what we're testing for, why we're testing, and the safety-sensitive employee list. As years go by, titles change, things like that, so we have to update the safety-sensitive list so that employees can clearly identify themselves as a safety-sensitive employee. There have been no FTA mandated changes required since 2010. So these changes that we're making to the policy are non-regulated. Additionally, the size of the policy will be reduced to a booklet that will include the safety-sensitive policy along with the non-safety sensitive policy. With that right there, we have two different policies. You have a policy for safety-sensitive employees that are tested under DOT standards, and then you have a non-safety sensitive policy where employees like myself, employees like Dennisale would be under the non-safety sensitive, which is under non-DOT. Anytime that they're tested, it would be under non-DOT standards. And they're just a few little changes that are different than the safety sensitive policy. During the recent FTA Drug and Alcohol Conference I attended in April of 2016, the updated policy was approved by the FTA auditors and gave us a go-ahead to go. They think it's a good idea that we update our policy often. When they come in, they're looking for the trends, the new words. One of the things we did is we took out transit and put public transit. They want us to be clear and define exactly what we're doing and who we're dealing with. Per the FTA Drug and Alcohol Compliance Program, the board has to approve the drug and alcohol policy. Now, we did get some clarity on this one. You do not have to approve this policy. We want to make sure we bring it to you so that you know exactly what type of changes that we're making. No approval is required because there are no regulatory changes that are being made. So some of the changes that are being made are the graphics that are in Section 4 on page 7. The graphics are added to enhance noticeability of the information. We have some new facilities on board, which is included in Section 6 on page 10 and 11. We added the Cashmere facility for pre-employment drug screening, times in reporting to the testing location, and the S&I. You have a certain amount of time to report to the drug and alcohol collection site based upon where you are. That was not published in our previous policy, so now it's clearly outlined in the policy. And then the updated safety-sensitive list, which comes from our compensation department. It's included as an addendum, Addendum A on page 25 through 28, which reflects the safety-sensitive titles that have been changed. And then final, it's our vendor list and our staffing updates, which is Addendum B on page 29 and 30. That reflects our new medical review officer, the substance abuse professional, and Metro's drug and alcohol program staff.
Okay, a question here on reporting time allotments.
Yes, sir.
Cashmere HR office to 2646 South Loop West. So this is something for an employee who is being interviewed for a job?
Yes.
If I look that up on a trip planner, that takes somewhere around 80 minutes on the Metro system to make that trip.
Yes. What we've done is we've benchmarked the number of employees. Because of where the facility is located, many of our applicants come out and they have someone who bring them, or they're taking their own transportation. They're driving themselves. Now, if they decide, we give them two options. If they decide to go to the West Loop location, then that's where we give them that extended amount of time. And the other location they can come to is here.
Oh, so they have a choice of locations. Okay,
exactly.
good.
They have two locations.
Okay.
When we see that they're on public transit, they're directed here to this location. And when they're driving themselves or they have somewhere else to go after that, they can go to our West Loop location.
So the purpose of West Loop is it's easier parking, basically, as opposed to...
Exactly.
Okay, that makes total sense.
Okay. So we have in here upon approval. However, we really just want to inform you of the policy. We're going to complete the printing and of the updated guides into booklets. And I brought an example here. This is what our policy looks like now. It's kind of hard to carry around. You know, we have two different policies where an employee has to clearly read if it's safety sensitive or non-safety sensitive. So this is what we have here. What we're looking at going to is something like this. Okay, so it's going to be a little bit easier to carry around. It's not going to be the spiral. It's going to be the, I'm not sure what they call the binding, but it's going to be a little bit thinner. So it'll have safety sensitive on front, and if they flip it over, it's going to say non-safety sensitive. So it's going to be a little bit easier for the employee to carry and a little bit easier for us to distribute during new hire orientation. And that's it. Do you have any questions?
Okay, Christoph, any other questions?
Yeah, let me find it again. I saw one really minor thing in here that I'm not sure I understood. If I'm looking on page 8, covered employees with, this is under on-duty use of alcohol. Covered employees with an alcohol concentration 0.04 or greater are prohibited from reporting to duty to perform a safety-sensitive function or remaining on duty while performing a safety-sensitive function. under Metro Authority, an employee is prohibited from reporting for duty with an alcohol concentration of 0.02 or greater. What
Correct.
does that second sentence mean?
Well, what it means is if you have a 0.02 and you're called in for a random test or, let's say, a reasonable suspicion test, if you test at 0.02, Metro's policy is you'll be sent home for 8 hours. You will not be terminated. You will be sent home for 8 hours and returned for retesting. When you retest, you have to test at 0.00. But if you test at 0.04 initially, it's zero tolerance termination.
So if I, okay, so if I report, so what confuses me here is the parallel wording, because in both cases it simply says is prohibited from reporting for work. And so I'm not sure that what it says here clearly says what you just said.
So it says at 0.04 you're prohibited for reporting to work.
Yes.
Okay. So if you're at 0.04, really the testing guidelines for FTA guidance is 0.04. That's it.
Right.
You can't have that in your system. However, you're allowed to have up to 0.02 in your system on your first blow. And if you come back after that with any more, then you're considered a positive test. Am I explaining that correctly?
I think I see your point. We probably can clarify this language to better match what you
Okay.
described.
We can look at that language and kind of see exactly how is it listed in the FTA regulations and see if we need to reword it.
Yeah, right now it feels like the two sentences contradict each other, whereas what you're explaining makes sense, but I don't feel like this says that.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, my comment, I really hate to see people with any blood alcohol concentration operating any kind of equipment at Metro.
Well, we agree with that. The point is, if they do measure anything, they're sent home.
Correct.
They're not going to operate our equipment.
Right. But
They have any measurable amount, really is what this means.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's why the 0.02 is there, because you get a more definitive measurement there. I think.
Right, but there's a trace of alcohol in their
That's right.
system,
Any
and so
measurable
we send them
amount,
home
they're
from
not
there.
operating our equipment.
right.
Where do we have breathalyzers to measure this?
We have our breathalyzers in the collection site. We have them here at 1900 Main Street and at our West Loop location. Actually, it's our contractors. They're certified breath alcohol collectors. They have to be calibrated daily. It's equipment that is properly maintained.
What if I'm, let's say, a train operator and I show up at one of the operation centers and so let's say the supervisor suspected that I'd been drinking.
That
Where
would
would
meet
that person be tested?
That would meet the guidelines in the 4 calls testing.
Reasonable suspicion.
Yeah,
The
reasonable
employee
suspicion.
would be tested under reasonable suspicion
They would be brought here.
They brought
for
here,
testing.
okay.
Yeah, but
They
that
have-
supervisor has the authority to immediately prevent them from
That's
getting
correct.
in a rail vehicle or doing anything sensitive.
Correct. All of our supervisors have been trained on reasonable suspicion, the signs to notice reasonable suspicion. We make sure that they're trained every 2 years on it and receive a certification. So if they notice it, they're able to make that call at that time to stop that employee.
Okay. Christoph, any other
No.
comment? All right, well, let's send it on for approval with the change that we just discussed. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Chairman, I want to compliment Kim. I think if you talk to the FTA and they look at a model drug and alcohol program, they're going to say Houston Metro's the model. So I want to
Good.
compliment her and her team.
Okay, let's move over to the action items, and we'll go with number 1, Mr. Kagan.
Yes, good afternoon. Okay, this is our request for board authorization for President and CEO to extend their primary and excess casualty insurance for the OSIP program for an additional 9 months for a not to exceed a premium cost of $300,000. In 2008, Metro implemented its owner-controlled insurance program for the Metro Rail project, and it covers the workers' compensation and general liability interests of the employees, contractors, and subcontractors for the project. The initial insurance program was for 5 years, from 2008 to 2013. In 2013, we came back for an additional 3-year extension due to construction delays. That term expires at the end of this month, June 30th. This request is for an additional 9 months of insurance OSIP program to cover it for the completion of the project, either till the end of March 31st or whenever the agency, whenever it's ready for revenue service.
Okay. Any questions on this one? All right, let's send it forward then. Number 2 is seat rebuilds. Mr. Skabowski.
Yeah, it's a request for board authorization for the president and CEO to execute a contract with Sardo Bus and Coach Upholstery. They'll provide bus seats as well as a bus operator seat replacement on 25 2006 model year MCI buses. Back in 2006, we purchased 25 vehicles for a fleet increase at the time, and so we need to get these buses, these seats in these buses are getting to the point where they're wearing and they need some work. And so this contract at about a little over $8,000 a bus will allow us to both change the cushion as well as the seats and grab the operator seat at the same time. So it's a refresh of the interior of these 06 MCIs.
Christoph is shaking his head. I have no problem with it.
Yeah, no, I've got no issues here at all. I'll ask a totally unrelated question since somebody asked me this the other day. Have we ever done a survey of our riders in terms of their preference for fabric seats versus vinyl seats versus hard seats, et cetera?
No, we have not.
Mr. Spiel, I know of no survey we've ever done.
No, we have not ever done a
We haven't
survey.
surveyed, but we've
Generally,
looked across the industry to what others are
Well,
doing.
generally, the industry, the choice or movement has for a number of years been towards fabric.
Right.
And part of that with our newer vehicles as well as our rail cars is the type of fabric. It's not, like on a rail car, it's not really fabric. It feels and looks like fabric, but
Right.
it's actually polyester that's glued to the seat frame. It's very, it's not absorbent. There's a number of different things that are hyperallergenic. It doesn't hold odors. So generally, as the industry has moved towards fabric because that was the original calling of customers. Have we done a survey ourselves here at Metro? No, and maybe that's something we could take a look at doing.
I just asked because somebody said to me that they really hated the fabric seats since they just seemed unclean to them. And I've never, I like the fabric, but I was just curious whether we had, since I got asked whether we had any indication of what customers' reactions to those have been.
And we've
I like
heard
the
that
fabric.
comment. That's why we've surveyed other properties, and we're consistent with what the industry's doing.
Well, I like the fabric too, and the fact is that it's not really fabric. It just
Right.
looks like fabric.
Yeah, on the rail side especially, it's not what people seem to think when they first look at it.
No, I think this is clearly a perception issue. This wasn't I have discovered the seats to be unclean. It was more of a.
Yeah.
Well, I know I've gotten emails from a couple of people that are always claiming that the rail cars smell like urine. And I ride that red line a lot, and I've never noticed that on the red line.
And the issue with that tends to be not necessarily the seat; it's other things going on within the vehicle. And we have a procedure in place where we pull that train out of service and get it cleaned up as fast as we can if something does happen.
All right, well, let's send that one on. Okay, number 3 for the video recording kits. Mr. Geimer, are you going to do that one?
Sure. Good afternoon. Here's a couple slides I can go through first if you'd like, courtesy of Andy and Chuck, of these video recordings kits that we ordered. Just a little preview. Back in April, my team went out and did an invitation for bid for these video recording kits, and the action in front of you would be to award a contract to Safety Vision to the tune of $335,250 for the purchase of these video kits. If you're ready, we can go take a peek. So back in 2008, we took delivery of 176 Ryan transit buses, and they're equipped with these audio-video recording systems. And these vehicles are active now, but they're reaching its end of its service life. And here's a picture of and if Andy and Chuck want to elaborate, that's a picture of a typical unit. And we're asking your permission to move forward with the purchase of these from Safety Vision. That's the gist of that procurement. Safety Vision, there's 2 vendors submitted bids, and they were the lowest responsive bidder.
And these components will be on shelf as we need them. We'll pull them in and utilize them, but we're finding the need to have the replacement units on the shelf as these are aging and kind
Well,
of.
to me, it's real important to have these on
Yes.
the vehicles.
Yes.
So these are the actual, these are not the cameras, but the recorders which gather the data and store it.
It's pretty much a DVR like you have at home for the digital TV, but it's on a bus, and so it's a electronic component that's moved around on a bus for a number of different years, and it's kind of reached its life.
And it records on a solid state medium, I
Yeah,
presume.
yes, it does.
Yeah, I was going to say, this is saying where the technology has surely changed quite a bit.
Yeah, I remember when we first started videos, pulling tapes out of buses, and then I ended up to being chain of custody and going to court with a tape. So the technology's come a really long way.
Okay, well, let's send that on, and let's skip now down to the natural gas contract. Mr. Marrero.
Thank you. Good afternoon. In this briefing, it's very straightforward. The natural gas contract that we currently use to purchase gas for the facilities, not for the transportation or for the buses, will be expiring in September. Out of our portfolio properties, we have 13 properties that qualify for a better rate based on usage. That alone gives us the ability to compete and seek better rates than your normal natural gas account. The current contract is with CenterPoint Energy. This contract was approved in May of 2014, and as I mentioned, will be expiring in the month of September, that is. Our current price is $4.33 per million BTU. Current market rate is about $2.56, so very competitive. So we're very excited about the opportunities for bringing savings to the agency. We're estimating at least 20 to 30%, hoping the market stays where it is right now. In essence, that's what it is. Be glad to ask any questions. We're just seeking concurrence to advertise for an RFP for a new natural gas contract.
That current price that we're paying is way above the quotes on NYNEX for natural gas.
Yes. It's based. Actually, it's based on the East Texas Houston Ship Channel Index, which oscillates. And what we seek to do with the contract is we fix it at hopefully a low level, where compared to where we are is 45% lower than what we're currently fixed at.
It's in terms of evaluation criteria, is this sort of a straight bid or a mix of bid and qualifications?
It's primarily pass-fail based on the minimum qualifications to provide the gas. So basically, there's going to be an evaluation team of 3 individuals that will evaluate them based on their experience and their financial strength, their terms, and it's just pass-fail.
Okay, so that's just pass-fail. Got it.
With your concurrence on the form, I'll just move
Yeah,
forward.
no, I think that makes sense.
Out of
That you don't
curiosity,
want
who
Joe Bob
besides
Natural
Center,
Gas, who's never supplied natural gas to anyone, to come in with the low bid.
who besides CenterPoint has the ability to deliver natural gas?
The General Land Office has the ability, as well as a couple other companies. I don't recall them, but we can get you that information.
But it's going to come on CenterPoint's.
Yeah,
price.
CenterPoint. The way the rate is worked out, you have the index price plus the marker that they make per every million cubic feet, plus the distribution charges. So much like the electricity, there's a fixed distribution charge. In this case, they call them transportation charges, and that always goes to CenterPoint because we're using their infrastructure for that. So even if we went with the General Land Office, CenterPoint would be making money because we're paying to use the transportation pipeline that they have in place.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right, well, let's go ahead and move this forward then.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, we've got this one item left, and we're already in the next committee's time. And Dr. Frieden has said if...
No, we're way early for the next committee.
Are we? What did you say, at 2 is the next?
It's at 2:30, and
Well,
it's 1:30 right now.
Okay, well, let's stand in recess then for 15 minutes to see if Dr. Frieden is able to join us.
Yeah, for some reason, this committee got a lot of time scheduled, even though the agenda didn't.
All right, let's bring the Operations Committee back into the session. And we'll go ahead. Dr. Frieden has joined us. Welcome, sir. And we will go ahead and pick up with the TTI item. And Andy, are you going to lay that out? Yes. All right.
This is a request for board authorization for the president and CEO to negotiate and execute a interagency agreement with Texas A&M Transportation Institute in an amount not to exceed $1 million, and that covers a 4-year period for a master research agreement. The agreement is managed through operations and with a not to exceed value of $250,000 annually for various transportation research projects. As you know, we are just coming off a previous 4-year agreement with Texas A&M. They've done a number of different research for us, from HOV system reporting to a review of collision avoidance systems, obviously the Metrolift moving forward work, a lot of our fair revenue analysis, and a number of other projects. So with that, if there's any questions, we can go through that.
Okay, are we going to do a presentation then on some of the services? Or?
Actually, we did not have a presentation. We just had there's a briefing, a one-page briefing attached to the RBA, which describes what an agreement is, how we manage it, who TTI is. I can go through those different bullets if you like.
Just for the benefit of the public, let's do that.
TTI is a resource organization, and as such, does not perform consulting work. Actually, they provide research work. They do not publicly or cannot publicly bid on a publicly solicited research or RFP in the state of Texas. TTI is part of the Texas A&M University system, and as you know, is recognized as one of the premier higher education affiliated transportation resource agencies in the nation. Their sole focus is on transportation. And they're the largest transportation institute in the country, as well as Texas. They're independent, objective, and a third-party research for with technical expertise. And that's how we use them. We use them as you go find out what the industry's doing, you give us your opinion, and then you feed us an independent, objective, third-party opinion. Sometimes the answer doesn't match what we thought, and sometimes it does. They're the only research university in Texas with a team of researchers that specialize in public transportation. And they are headquartered at Texas A&M University in College Station, and as well also have an office here in Houston. One of the things we want to note is their Riverside campus they recently are making an investment in continuous vehicle, autonomous vehicle application, something we're looking at through our Office of Innovation. The initial investment is about $150 million, in which they're transforming one of their campuses into a test bed to develop that technology. It's something that we're very well interested in. I believe there's actually some trips planned already with some of our internal staff to look at that. A couple other things to note about TTI. They have similar interlocal agreements with other transit properties in the state of Texas: Fort Bend, Capital Metro, Dallas Area Rapid Transit System. TTI can subcontract to other entities, including women-owned businesses, small businesses, as well as other universities. So if they don't have the expertise or based on workload need to reach into another entity, they can. And let me just go through a little bit more of a listing of what work they've done in the past for us. I mentioned HOV system reporting, the collision avoidance system review, their CNG fuel and infrastructure modeling and analysis. They're kind of the backbone for us, a third-party check on CNG. They did an evaluation on our. We had an old technology, a technology here that we don't of looking at backlighting our traffic signs, and they took a look at that for us. Obviously, their involvement in Metrolift moving forward. Fare review analysis. They do a number of different fare revenue analysis for us. They did our look at hot lanes, extended hours, safety, and user evaluation. Vanpool Independent Cost Estimates, we use them to give a third-party cost estimate on some contracts. They recently did a peer agency bus operator transport procedure. That's kind of looking at how other properties shuttle bus operators to their reporting locations, and they're involved with our bus stop beacon technology evaluation for persons with disabilities. That kind of goes through the one page that we had set up. So if there's any questions on that.
Dr. Frieden, do you have any questions that you wanted to pose?
I do. Thank you, Chair. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
You're fine.
Okay, thanks. First of all, let me preface my comments by saying that I have a great deal of respect and a high regard for Texas A&M University. A very good friend of mine has a library there that I frequent, and one of my favorite seafood restaurants is in College Station on the Strip there. That said, I also want to say that I have some degree of familiarity with TTI, and I think it's a great institution. Some say the preeminent transportation research institute in the United States, and I'm glad that we have the relationship that we do with them. If I recall correctly, their principals actually have experience and perhaps even training at the predecessor of Metro. So we're fortunate to have that resource available to us, and I know that they have contributed a lot to the efforts that we've made in the past. I guess I have a couple of questions. One of them relates to the nature of this kind of agreement. This is an open-ended contract. I looked through all the material that was provided us, and I did not see a single project that we expected to refer to them. I saw a long list of projects that they had apparently completed. Actually, one of those projects pertains to a question that I asked Metro about a month ago and have yet to receive an answer to. So perhaps they answered and the answer is being refined, or I'm not sure what the circumstances are there, but I do hope the board has the benefit of the research that they do. Going forward, I understand how important it is for a public agency that goes through a long process contracting to have some, what one might call in another field, retainer agreements, and that's the way I see this. And it facilitates the work we do, so I appreciate that as well. But I guess my main question is whether we take the time, given this outstanding resource nearby, to look and see if there are other possible research programs in the country that could benefit us. While TTI has an amazing reach and a great deal of depth, I do not believe that they are, they are the exclusive domain of good ideas and good research pertaining to the field of transportation. So my question is, are we aware of other programs in the country that can assist us in the way that they do? Are we bound to them by our natural geographical relationship and history? Or do we have the opportunity, and do we ever reach beyond them for additional advice and assistance on matters that they may have expertise in?
Chief Lambert, would you like to
I'll respond in a
comment?
couple fashions, Dr. Frieden. First of all, I want to make sure I follow up on the question, the Metro, that Dr. Frieden has not gotten an answer to, so I'll follow that up very quickly. This agreement would be a task order-based agreement that we would not, it's not $250,000 you're going to automatically get paid. There has to be a scope spelled out, the scope has to be costed out, and it's a task order-based system based upon the staff's request of TTI to do the work. So that's how this is structured. There are clearly other research organizations in the country, and even in the state for that matter, that would have expertise and knowledge in transportation of helping us going further. Our own Texas Southern University has a great transportation department led by Dr. Lewis, which I know has got the capacity, and we have worked with historically to look at research, and we want to continue to work with them in the future. I also know they have a university agreement, I think, with Texas A&M through the National Universities Research Program, and I may have my titles wrong. There's also Southwest Research Center in San Antonio that does a lot of transportation-related projects, and our full intent is, as we continue to work on innovative strategies through the Office of Innovation, I expect we're going to broaden our discussions with Southwest Research Center. We're also beginning to have conversations with the University of Texas Department of Engineering, which is doing a lot of things on technology and innovation. Terrence and I next week are actually going to be going to a conference at TxDOT that is looking at a smart states initiative for Texas. You've heard a lot about smart cities and how you use technology to move people. And in multimodal approach, TxDOT's looking at that now, working both with the public and private sector, and I expect we will engage more opportunities with that. I fully expect we'll continue to broaden our partnership with ITS America that has a lot of relationships with universities across the country, with US DOT, Federal Highways, Federal Transit, and seeing how we can work with them to look at technology research opportunities as well. So I think there's a wealth of opportunity for us. I think we've got to engage and get back in that and build upon those partnerships that we have not done a lot of in recent times. So I think there's opportunities.
Tom, would you go ahead and also fill in for Dr. Frieden on the thing we're working on with TSU we talked about yesterday?
Dr. Frieden, we are working with Texas Southern University that we're going to be submitting a grant application. You may have seen that in the finance and audit package yesterday, where we're going to look at them to see if there's some opportunities to do real-time vehicle dispatching and getting better service in a more timely fashion to our customers. We're going to look at that on an on-call demand response type service. We're going to do a pilot program to really push the technology to see if we can improve not only the reliability and the timeliness of our service, but does that give us an opportunity really to serve areas that have not been served in the metro service area that have been taxed since 1978, but have really had no transit service. And we think that on-call demand may give us some opportunities to do that. So we're going to work with Texas Southern, but again, I think there are many opportunities to work with other research centers, and I think we've got to engage ourselves to be open to those opportunities going forward, and we fully expect to do so.
Let me just comment. I appreciate the opportunity to ask the question, and I appreciate very much the constructive response.
But Dr. Frieden, I promise you, you're going to get an update on that question you asked that Metro has not responded to, and I expect you're probably going to get an update this afternoon.
I would think, in response to Alexa's question, I think it might be useful for us at some point to basically solicit expressions of interest from research institutes who feel they could help us, and basically there's a lot of things we do like financial brokers where we basically maintain a list of multiple qualified entities, and I don't see any reason why that couldn't be the case here. So I would think putting out basically a request for qualifications that says if you are a nonprofit research institution that would be interested in assisting us, please provide us with the following qualifications, and then we can have an internal team evaluate who we believe is qualified, and Terrence is nodding over here. It actually seems to fall very naturally under his new title. So I think that would be very worthwhile if we would be able to sort of increase the pool, and also there may be institutions we haven't worked with that could be very helpful to us.
Mr. Spano, I think that's a great idea, and we're very open to do that. Mike, you guide me on this. Can we do a request for industry input? And I'm saying that in the broader sense to make sure people know what we're looking for before we do that.
Yes, we can.
Draw them to the audience and have that conversation and then put something out.
Yes, we'll do a request for information.
I think it's a great idea. We will do that.
Yeah, well, I agree. That's a good idea. In the meantime, though, I would not want to not renew our relationship with the TTI.
Mr. Chairman, I agree with you to the degree. I've actually had a conversation this morning. Dr. Fontaine and I are going to College Station in July. He had mentioned the research facility, or Andy did. We think there's some opportunities to really work directly that transit can get some benefit to a lot of things they're doing on even transit technology enhancements. They're testing in College Station signal timing coordination to give transit a better benefit in moving down major corridors. This whole issue of beginning the dialogue on platooning of vehicles and autonomous vehicles, we think there's some great opportunities, so we would look forward to doing this. I want to make sure the board also knows, just full disclosure, I serve on an advisory board for the Texas Transportation Institute on their research as well. There's probably about 30 people in the state that meets with them once a year that says, here are the things we ought to be researching. So I want the board to know I sit on that advisory council too. But we think this is a good opportunity to go forward, but then opening up the opportunity to work with other partners in the future, and we'd like to move forward with that as well.
I agree. And I've been familiar with TTI's work since my time with the Texas Department of Public Safety. And I know that Lisa, with her work at the Toll Road Authority, also does lots of projects with TTI, and they have a very strong reputation. Well, what is the pleasure of the committee moving forward with this?
I support moving this forward because I think the way this is structured would easily allow us to start similar relationships with other institutions. So I'm totally supportive going forward. They are obviously qualified.
Okay, any other comments? All right, well, we have a consensus. Let's put it on the agenda for next week. Dr. Frieden, thank you for joining us. We held this till you could be here so we could make sure you had a chance to comment.
I appreciate that. Excuse my tardiness.
And Mr. Chairman, I want to thank Dr. Frieden for his input. It always makes us move and do things better with the input we get, so we very much appreciate that as well.
Well, this completes our agenda, and the Public Safety Operations and Customer Service Committee is adjourned.